A ribbon of water sliced through the canyon walls like liquid moonlight, its cool embrace welcoming the young Apache woman as she stepped into its flow. She'd escaped here from the chaos and grit of camp life, hungry for solitude where nothing but rushing water and ancient stone could whisper their secrets. The moment she'd settled into the stream and placed her clothes upon a boulder, harsh laughter shattered her peace. From the shadows burst strangers, crude frontiersmen with malice dancing in their eyes. Before she could react or cry out, they'd seized her garments and fled into the brush like scavengers, their mocking calls hanging in the air as she trembled in the shallow water, using the current itself as her only shield. There she crouched, river droplets cascading from the feathers adorning her ears, her midnight eyes blazing with both rage and humiliation. Hardship was nothing new to her. Her tribe had weathered countless attacks, starvation, and the relentless encroachment of strangers on sacred ground. But this degradation pierced deeper than physical wounds. To be robbed of her dignity, left exposed in this sacred place, it was a violation she'd never absolve. Naked and defenseless, she couldn't pursue them. She wrapped her arms around herself, breathing rapidly while her thoughts raced toward a solution. Then hoofbeats echoed through the canyon, measured and powerful, like distant storms approaching. She sank lower, praying the stone walls might conceal her. The rhythmic steps grew nearer until a silhouette emerged on the bank. A lean cowboy stood there, his wide-brimmed hat shadowing a sun-weathered face, a heavy revolver resting at his hip. He carried himself with the assurance of someone who'd earned his place through struggle, the rifle across his shoulders telling tales of battles fought and won. In his grip was a worn jacket, dust-colored and frayed from countless journeys. Their eyes met despite her attempts to disappear beneath the rippling surface. He didn't mock or sneer as the others had. Instead, he observed her with a calm that held neither menace nor sympathy, just quiet comprehension. "Seems you've been dealt a wrong hand," he said, his words rolling like distant thunder. She remained silent, lips sealed tight, distrust burning within her chest. Cowboys brought nothing but rifles and greed to her world, stripping away land and lives without conscience. Yet here stood one offering no threats or leering glances, only the jacket in his outstretched hand. "My clothing was stolen," she finally breathed, fury sharpening each word. "They treat it like sport, even vulnerable as she was." Her chin rose defiantly. She'd show no weakness before any man. The cowboy nodded slightly, as if such cruelty was exactly what he'd come to expect from the world. Kneeling beside the water's edge, he extended the jacket toward her. "Take this," he said without flourish. Nobody deserves to be left bare in country this unforgiving. She examined him closely, searching for deceit behind his kindness, but found no lust in his stare, no pleasure in her shame. Cautiously she waded toward him, each movement heavy with wariness. He turned his head away, granting her the courtesy of privacy as she snatched the coat and pulled it around her frame. The coarse material scratched her skin, yet it became her armor, and she gripped it with unspoken gratitude. Standing on the shore, wrapped in his jacket like protective steel, she watched as the cowboy rose to meet her gaze, seeming to weigh unspoken thoughts. "Name's Colton," he said after a lengthy silence. "Reckon you've been wronged by men who understand nothing about honor. If you're willing, I'll make certain they won't bother you again." She shook her head firmly. "I don't require rescue. I require dignity." Her words carried flame, yet underneath ran the tremor of reality. Alone, she couldn't retaliate against those who'd shamed her. Colton's expression softened while his jaw remained set. "Dignity gets earned," he answered. "But it also gets protected. Nobody has the right to steal it from you." For the first time since laughter had stolen her breath away, her chest loosened. She studied this stranger who'd appeared not with mockery, but with covering, her protection in the wilderness. He waited there without pressure or demands for trust, simply offering his own. She understood then that perhaps strength could flow not only from inner fire, but from the rare souls generous enough to give without taking. In that instant, she knew their destinies were intertwined, though the world would never make their path simple. Canyon winds carried silence between them, broken only by rustling vegetation and a hawk's distant call. The Apache woman, still clutching the cowboy's jacket against her damp skin, felt her shame's heat transforming into another flame, anger that refused to be extinguished. Those men's laughter as they'd stolen her clothes seared her memory like stone carvings. Colton remained steady, neither advancing nor retreating, awaiting her decision. She'd never trusted cowboys, yet this one hadn't turned her suffering into entertainment. Instead, he'd restored her dignity when others had stripped it away, and that alone disturbed her heart's rhythm. "I don't seek your assistance," she said at last, her voice quiet but steel-edged. "But I won't forget their actions. I won't pardon them." Her fists clenched the rough fabric tighter, her dark eyes glinting with unvoiced determination. Colton nodded once, as if her words were a sacred vow he honored. "Then we'll track them down," he stated, his tone calm yet resolute. "You don't need saving, but justice that we can pursue together." Her gaze snapped upward, surprise flickering across her features. No man had ever offered her partnership, only control or dismissal. For a long moment she evaluated him, calculating the gamble. Finally she gave a single nod. "We ride," she declared. Colton approached his horse, a sturdy bay marked by a scar across its muzzle, the animal lowering its head as if acknowledging her presence. She mounted cautiously, keeping the coat secure around her. While Colton settled into his saddle with practiced grace, they departed across the canyon, the river disappearing behind them as the trail ahead beckoned like a promise written in dust. The tracks proved easy to follow, boot impressions pressed deep in soft earth, careless laughter still echoing faintly on the breeze. These men lacked cunning, drunk on their cruelty and certain no reckoning would find them. The Apache woman leaned forward, her wet hair clinging to her cheeks, her jaw set with determination so fierce it seemed to make the canyon itself lean closer to witness. As they traveled, Colton glanced her way, his brow creased beneath his hat's brim. "What should I call you?" he asked quietly, respectfully, as though names were gifts to be freely given, not taken. She paused, then replied, "Nia." The syllables flowed like the river's melody. Colton repeated it softly once, as if committing it to memory. The path curved through a narrow gap where sandstone cliffs pressed close. Voices drifted through the air, raucous, cruel laughter from men who believed themselves beyond reach. Nia tensed, her hands gripping the reins tighter. She could almost see her garments in their grasp, displayed like conquered banners. Colton raised his hand, signaling her to slow. Together they dismounted, securing the horse to a scrub tree before creeping forward around the bend. The men lounged beside a campfire, 3 of them with rifles carelessly scattered on the ground. One brandished her dress overhead like a victory flag while the others howled with amusement. Nia's blood surged hot through her veins. She yearned to charge forward and reclaim what was hers, but Colton's hand rested gently on her arm. "Patience," he whispered, his eyes sharp and cold. "They'll learn." He stepped into the clearing, his boots crunching gravel, his revolver already drawn. The laughter died instantly, replaced by startled oaths. "Evening, gentlemen," Colton said, his voice steady as bedrock. "You've claimed something that isn't yours to take." The men scrambled, hands diving for their rifles. But Nia emerged beside him, her chin raised, her presence a blade keener than any steel. "That belongs to me," she declared, her voice clear, strong, echoing off the canyon walls. Her words sliced through silence, and for the first time, the men appeared unsettled. They'd anticipated helplessness, not fire. One of them sneered, spitting into the dirt. "What's it matter?" "She's just—" But he never completed the slur. Colton cocked his revolver, the sound cutting the air like lightning. "Finish that thought," Colton warned, his tone low and menacing. "And I'll ensure it's your final one." The man swallowed hard, his bravado crumbling under the cowboy's stare. Nia stepped forward, her eyes never leaving the garments in their possession. "Throw them down," she commanded. The men hesitated, but Colton's weapon never wavered, and slowly, reluctantly, one tossed her clothing into the dirt at their feet. The mockery drained from their faces, replaced by cold understanding that they'd trespassed into a realm where consequences wore spurs and carried steel. Nia bent to gather her belongings, clutching them with trembling hands, not from fear, but from the surge of triumph flooding through her. She straightened, her voice ringing like forged iron. "If you ever touch me again, or any woman of my people, the canyon itself won't hide you from what I'll bring." The men shifted nervously, none daring to speak. Colton finally lowered his revolver, though his stare remained fixed on them like a brand. "Best you leave this territory," he said coldly. "You've destroyed your welcome." With that, he turned to Nia, giving her space to claim her own victory. Together, without another glance at the cowards, they returned to their horse and mounted. As the canyon spread wide before them, Nia held her recovered garments close, though the coat still draped her shoulders. She turned to Colton, her voice softer now, stripped of fire but not of strength. "You didn't have to stand beside me," she said. He met her gaze, his eyes steady. "No," he replied, "but no man should stand against you either." For the first time in many seasons, Nia felt something beyond mere survival. She felt trust, fragile as dawn, but real as the earth beneath her. The cowboy hadn't stolen her power. He'd helped her wield it, and as they rode side by side into the vast desert expanse, she knew their paths, though different, were bound together by the river's flow and the fire of justice that neither could carry alone.